You may have heard about CityWorks Expo. For years now, we've been bringing people together to share big ideas for better places. Expo connects innovators across the community and around the globe through an ongoing series of events, conferences, and social media. And our goal is to inspire and support people like you, the ones who have a passion for making their neighborhoods, communities, and cities better places to live, work, and play. Check us out at cityworksxpo.com to learn more. Become a part of the Expo community and share your story. You never know who you will inspire with your big ideas.
So glad to be here with you. I just want to let you know, don't be alarmed if you're not from here. I've been in Roanoke for about 7 years now. It's not uncommon to see sandbags. It's not uncommon to see people in the wintertime drive with their four-ways on. 2 miles per hour on 81. No salt in place, sand. That's what we do. Being from Detroit, Michigan, I'm used to going to school and snow is about here. Anybody from up north? Okay. It's not chilly outside, is it? It's right comfortable, isn't it? Not down here. So it's not uncommon to see scarves in October, but I'm just so pleased that I was able to find a home in Roanoke, Virginia. I was able to find a community that I can be a part of and a cause that I can fight for. It was already stated by Amy, and I have to actually take a beat here. We need to give the staff of the Expo a great hand. We need to really, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. He stood up because, listen, if you've ever been on the outside of something, or better yet, the background of something, sometimes it's a thankless job, right? No overtime, volunteer sometimes, but to come into a place like this and to see what they've been able to do is truly amazing. And sometimes that gets lost in everything we see and everything we hear. So I think it's great sometimes to take a beat, take a moment, and actually thank those people who put those things together. So I know we gave them a round of applause, but it wouldn't be bad to go up to them personally if you see them, to the staff around here, and just thank them for what they've done, okay? Speaking of passions and cause to fight for, I had a conversation with a young man, came into the office, and I work with youth. He came in, and he had a juvenile record, because I'm a part of a program through TAP, This Valley Works, called the Yale Program, Young Adult Life Enhancement Program, and unfortunately, everybody can't get in. We actually have a very particular criteria. You have to have a juvenile record. You have to be court involved. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who would qualify for this program. This young man came in with his mother. They just came from court. He was just told that if he did one more thing, because he would be 17 next week or 18 next week, if he did one more thing, that would be it. And mom had her great way of reminding him of her time and her effort and her disappointment, and she kept reminding him that he just had one more time. I looked at him and I looked at his record, and I asked him what his name was. He told me his name was Zachariah Mack. I looked back at him and I said, it isn't petty. It isn't larceny. It isn't possession. Your name isn't truancy. He said, no, my name is Zachariah Mack. Our job at the Yale program, my job as a motivator, our job as a community is to help this young man discover who Zachariah Mack is, can be, and what Zachariah Mack can contribute to his community. Not an educator. I don't consider myself to be. Not even a mentor. I'm a facilitator of greatness. And this young man has an amount of greatness within him that he's unaware of. So therefore, his product, his actions, what he did, his mistakes are just a byproduct of him not knowing who he is. I told him about our program and how it can help him obtain his high school diploma. He can get certified in welding and plumbing and electrical and and food services and be certified to drive truck, get a CDL. I told him how our program every 2 weeks would provide you with $325 for participation, going to school, doing the things that we need you to do. I told him how we would give him job training and job placement, and even how we would provide him with a mentor that would keep him encouraged. But the thing he found most fascinating, and you might too, there was a word on the piece of paper that said expungement. And I asked Zachariah Mack, did he know what the word expungement meant? This is the sad part of the story. His mother answered for him and said, no, I bet you he doesn't. Maybe because she didn't know, and we have services to help her too. But I looked back at Mr. Mack and I said, I'm sorry you were interrupted. I'm talking to you. So now at this time, mom is in her feelings, and you know what in your feelings, right? And your mom is feeling some type of, okay, so she was upset. So after mom got upset and we directed the attention back to the person who really mattered in the matter, he said, I know what it means. It means to wipe away, to take away, to remove. And I said, son, you have an opportunity not just to prove yourself to your mom, to this community, to people who will only see your fences. You have a chance to confirm to yourself that you're more than what your record states you are. Our job in the Yale program, our job in this community is to reaffirm and to reestablish within these young folks that your mistakes do not make your destiny. Your mistakes do not write your entire path. This young man began to get lifted because I'll tell you, his body language said all kinds of things. You ever seen a person with bad body language? Yeah, his body language said all kinds of things. And he had been under the influence. He had smoked one of those funny cigarettes before he came to see me. And I could, somebody laughed, so right. That's why everybody's late. So what happened was, apologized in advance. So what happened was I could see this young man, and I could have said, no, you know what? I smell it on him. I see it on him. He's not paying attention to me. But his body language began to tell me he heard me. And not only did he hear me, but he connected himself to the vision. He connected himself to hope. He connected himself to something better and to something greater. This program had been around in the city of Roanoke in 2012 and part of 2013, but it went away. And anybody here who's familiar with grants understands, unfortunately, sometimes when you're not renewed, when you don't get that grant money, the people who depend on your services sometimes are left without your services right at the moment where they made that turn. So this program had went away, but it's back this year. And I'm grateful that the ages have changed. It was 18 to 24, but now we service young people 14 to 24. Now, for me, that's amazing because there's a lot of 14-year-olds. If we can get them to change their cycle now, if we can get them to break the cycle now, if we can get them to change the pattern by changing the way they think, then I think we're on to something. They asked, well, how did this fit for the expo? Well, we're talking about placemaking, right? We're talking about making a place better. It's very hard to make a place better when the people who reside there don't feel that they have a part. It's very hard to talk about big ideas and a great place when people in the very city that you're meeting in may feel as though I've disqualified myself due to my choices. And most sadly, it's unfortunate that these young people are accepting that idea now. But you can't talk about making a place better. You can't talk about big ideas and a bigger place and developing and not talk about inspiring and lifting. When these young people get to the point where they realize who they are and who they can be, they will become the caretakers. They will become the sustainers. They will become those that carry on the legacy of the place that we're making. I know we all understand that the youth are our future. Even in their mistakes, even in their difficulties, even in their hurdles, the youth, as they are our future. But what have we done to invest in those lives? Last year, or the last cycle that the Yale program had, they had one student come through. One. And I told you all the things we offer, right? The mentoring, the educational resources, the job training, the certifications, the community service, the service learning projects, the expungement. We pay you for participation. We pay you for the job you get tax-free. Tax-free for these young people. They had one to go through. I'm happy to say as of 4 o'clock yesterday, there are 60 names on our waiting list. There are 60 names with no commercial, with no billboard, with no big media blast. There are 60 people who said, you know what? I am not my past. I am not my mistakes. I am not my hurdles. If anything, they're going to make me into who I can become. There are 60 people who have a made-up mind to break the cycle. And I think that's a great place to start when you're talking about ages 14 to 24. I think that's a great place to start when you talk about making a place better. I think that's a great place to start when you talk about us being able to pass the torch and pass the baton to some people who are worth it. They just don't know that they're worth it. Any educators in the building? Raise your hand. Educators, raise it high. Raise it high. Put your hands down. Any educator in the building ever had a very troubling student? Oh, those hands went up quicker. Didn't know what to do with them. Didn't know how to work with them. My past takes me through Roanoke City Public Schools. The last school that I was working in was Westside Elementary School. Any people know Westside? All right, that's what's up. Thank you. 830 kids. Pre-K through 5th grade. 830 kids this year. When I was there, it was 802. It wasn't the 800 that was going to get you. It was those two. And you educators in the building understand, you can probably put a name to those two. My job was to create incentive programs for those young people. So for our young people who love to talk, love to pop off at the mouth, love to give you their opinion even when you didn't ask it, we created a debate team. It was obvious. For those young people who couldn't walk down the hallways without doing the latest dance and doing the wobble and doing the nay-nay, and some of you I heard was doing it Thursday night, but that's okay. We created a step team for those children. For those young people who were always in somebody else's business, nosy as we call it, right? Investigators, private eyes, we created a newsletter club. What I'm saying is these young people who probably had some personality uniqueness. Isn't that nice? They had some unique personalities, but all they needed was a platform to showcase it. And we didn't start with perfect kids. We started with those kids who were put out the classroom, those kids who were suspended, those kids who didn't come to school, and all of a sudden we saw those kids improve in their attendance, improve in their academics. At one point, our debate team and our step team averaged a 4.0 GPA. You can clap there, it's public school. We had to take every student who walked through our doors, no matter what they made, where they lived, what their background was, and those young people defied the odds and said, yes, we can do it, we can achieve. We took a group to Wiley College in Texas. Another group won a National Magna Award. Another group went to Washington, D.C. And the last group went to Philadelphia, all off of their intellect. I'm sure they can run a football well. I'm sure they were rhythmically inclined and they could dance. But what got them to success and what got them to the level where the whole nation was talking about them was between the ears, not the feet. Now we're working with this program, and we're looking for mentors in the community But the thing I love about it is we're not looking for perfect people. When I ask for mentors, I don't ask for perfect people. You know why? Because sometimes perfect people don't keep it 100. You know what 100 is, right? They don't keep it real. They're afraid to be transparent. But we need some people who aren't afraid to tell these young people that we're working with that may have made some mistakes in their lives. If I can make it, you can make it. This is what I went through. I'll open myself up to you. One of the best things that we saw happen at a Boys to Men meeting, you had, you had about 200, 300 boys sitting in a room, and we had speakers come in and talk to these boys. Now, anybody with small children understands the attention span. It's quick. You know it is, right? Pre-K to fifth graders all in one cafeteria, about 200, 300 of them just blaring, wide open. Their speaker came up, but it was the expectation that they sit still and listen to the speaker, and guess what? That's what they did. But before the speaker introduced himself, before he gave his whole spiel, and it's all young men, mind you, this gentleman stood up and he began to unbutton his shirt. He opened up his shirt. This young man, this gentleman had been shot several times, spent an extensive amount of time in prison. But before he opened his mouth, ladies and gentlemen, he opened up and showed his wounds. He showed his scars. I wonder what would happen as we're building these places and we're building up these people if we would get to a place where we would be open enough and transparent enough to show somebody else your scars, what you've been through, the stuff that you had hid for a long time. I wonder what would happen if we open up. Do you know that those young people did not murmur another word? He had their full, undivided attention. You know why? Because he was transparent. Our job for these young people, our job for these folks who want better for their lives is to meet them where they are with an expectation of ourselves, not to leave them there. Now, Mr. Mack, I believe he will be successful, don't you? Even in spite of his mother. But I understand her pain. When you go to a courtroom and you see a mother who is embarrassed, you see parents and support system who feel helpless, weary because of the journey, you have to understand that. Our program not only services the youth, but we service their families because there may be some issues in the home. There may be some deficits there that we can help because it's very hard to help the youth if you don't help the environment that they have to go back to. It's very tough. You have to educate the whole family. But I believe he'll be successful. I believe he can do it. But it's going to require not just his household, not just his mother, but his community to look at him with new eyes, a new vision, and a new expectation. And that's what I would leave you with. We don't hold their hand and we don't make it okay that they've made mistakes. We don't lower the bar, but we raise the bar. Because if you raise expectations, they'll meet it every single time. Anybody a fan of raised expectations in here? You have to raise the bar. I know what your background says. I know what your dad wasn't. I know what your mother was. But if I tell you you can do it, and that's no excuse for you to stay where you are, then I've raised that bar of expectation, not just for you, but for myself. Because when I see you go on the side of who you are destined to be, I have the responsibility to step in and say, no, you're better than that. Don't believe in yelling at kids. Don't believe in talking down to them. I believe in telling them the truth. And you educators and parents in here, I know you've used this statement more than enough. You're better than that. You're better than that. I'm disappointed, not because of what you did, but because what you're not becoming. You're greater. You're better. You're going to do more. But it has to start right now. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff May, and I have the privilege to facilitate greatness within our biggest and greatest commodity, our youth. But I love this part. I'm not the only one that can join in that fight. You are too. Thank you very much for your time.